Hello, today I wanted to record a video to talk about the deck that I used to get to King of Games in January 2023, and the deck that I will probably be using for most of February. Unless something major changes, I know we have a mini box coming out very shortly, so that could change the meta, who knows, but as of right now, this is the deck I'm planning to use. I'm not going to spend too much time talking through every single card and what they do and how that stuff goes. I did previously record a video very early on, in the month to kind of talk that through. This is the Mekk-Knights deck. It is tier 1 still. It's arguably the best deck out there. It does require, in my opinion, some skill to use because you have to kind of connect the dots a bit and problem solve sometimes, but that said, it still is very, very powerful, and with some practice, pretty much anyone can get good with it. So to highlight some of the changes too that I've had from the previous video that I recorded on it, I now have 3 purples instead of 2. I got to King of Games with 2. Anyone can. It takes a bit of grinding even with the best deck because there's always going to be someone who gets a better draw than you and gets the right cards, and you can get one turn killed, all those fun things like that. But I think for having a KC Cup coming up, I really want to get this deck as close to optimal as possible. So getting that 3rd purple was really, really big. The other big change is having 2 Morning Stars. I think 1 is, again, sufficient. I got King of Games with 1, however, having 2 is just that much better should the first one get removed from the field. You can't really bring it back to the field with any other cards in the deck, so having the capability to have another one and bring it out is very, very powerful, and actually able to link summon something else is sometimes a good thing because it helps get other cards off the field. That way you can summon other things and get the special abilities going with that too. So those are the 2 main changes here. Just a few other things I can highlight is the deck is incredibly consistent. I think I mentioned, but it is tier 1 right now. Any deck that's in with just any kind of tiered with that recognition is going to be incredibly consistent, because if you have a deck where your first draw is going to be basically a brick where you can barely use your first turn, and going to put you in a position to lose the duel as long as your opponent plays reasonably, is not going to be tiered, because you just need cards that you can play every single time, or very close to it at very least. This deck does at times struggle when you go first, because you have to be able to play off your own cards, and most of the monsters require help to special summon. Having 2 cards in that column to special summon them. That is why Ibli is here. Some people are playing 3 Iblis. I think it's helpful for first turn. After that, not so much. I think everyone is playing counters like Link Discipline, so if you summon Ibli to their side of the field, they can get rid of it very easily, whether by bringing Link Discipline out, whether by tribute summoning something with it. So I think Ibli is just most powerful really on your first turn, where you can Link summon, Link Discipline, bring Ibli to your opponent's side of the field in the same column, and then start summoning the Mekk-Knights from that. Other than that, things are very, very consistent. I think that, especially having the 3rd purple now, you can use that to keep drawing. You can bring out the blue. You can use the blue to summon to bring more cards to your hand. You can use Indigo to summon an extra one, or after you move Indigo to another column. The cards flow incredibly well. A couple other considerations. The vanilla card here, I went back and forth. I played Swap Cleric a few times. It was nice to get the effect to be able to draw, but losing the attack points I didn't love, and it felt very forced to Link Summon. As much as that is the strategy, people often do want to go with. There's a little flexibility with this monster to leave it out in the field. As you can see, I'm using the Tie That Binds still, so if you have 3 other monsters, it can get attack power up to 2400, which is relatively strong and can defeat a lot of monsters on the field. So if you want to link summon, you can, but you don't really feel forced to. And it's not just a target waiting to get destroyed or anything like that. So the reason I have 2 of these is for that, rather than a Link, or again, a Swap Cleric. I can't say that correctly. And then one other reason for Imduk here, which if you've seen one of the duels I had, it completely saved me. As long as the effect is able to activate, if you attack a card directly in front of you, it'll automatically destroy before the damage step there without any, losing any life points or getting destroyed, anything like that, which when you're in a bind, those rare occasions, it's one of those kind of back end of your extra deck type of cards to just get you out of there. a little bit of flexibility within kind of the spells in here where you can play 2 MSTs, you can play 3 Book of Moons. I think these work well defensively because every once in a while you're going to get a hand where you get, 2 Book of Moons, a Memory, and Crackdown, let's say. I think these can fend off your opponent for a turn, maybe even 2, until you get the right draws and can get things going. I've had plenty of duels that I've won where I had a hand like that, and there's just enough spells and traps to just, again, fend them off and get you in position to still be able to fight back, rather than kind of like other decks where when you brick and only have a spell and traps, you're probably done. So that's worked very nicely. One other consideration I have is to add a second Indigo. I think I like Indigo more than most people do. One, because I find the effect to be very, very helpful, because you can, in addition to move things around, it allows you to move it to another column, and you can then summon a monster, special summon a monster to that original column that has 2 cards in it. But the other reason is being able to get these Galaxy Eyes monsters onto the field. I don't need to talk about how powerful the cards are. The only thing I can say is they can be simple to summon, whereas, again, we have 3 purples and now 1 indigo. Before I had 2 indigos and 2 purples, so 4 different Mekk-Knight monsters that are pretty easy to search out of the deck and get going there. But when you bring the Galaxy Eyes Dragons onto the field, they don't get the same protection as the other Mekk-Knight cards. For example, if one of them is, let's say, purple is getting attacked, I can use Indigo to move it to another column if I have Morningstar in the field, and then it can't get destroyed by a card in a different column. It can't get, let's say, targeted by an effect if you have Secret in the same column as if you have a Mekk-Knight monster in the same column as the effect, and it can deactivate. So those things don't always protect the Galaxy Eyes cards, but as we have all seen, the Galaxy Eyes cards often don't need protection. You can get the Cypher Dragon on the field, you can then turn it into the full armor, you can use that to destroy a face-up card, you can then bring out the Cypher Blade, and you can destroy another card, and either of those having 4,000 or 3,200 attack points, say no more. You can clear off a couple cards in the field or attack directly and probably end the duel, so I've had that happen for sure. Really good problem to have. Now with having 2 Morningstars in the extra deck here, I don't have Nightmare Unicorn. I just don't find it that helpful. I don't love discarding cards from this deck from your hand, because every card in this deck is playable, usable, and they don't require a lot of setup. So, and it's also not a great deck for bringing cards back from the graveyard. If anything, it takes cards from the graveyard and banishes them, but Secret here is really the only card where you're bringing a monster back onto the field. So I don't want to be throwing cards into the graveyard that unless I absolutely have to. Now, Nightmare Phoenix is one of the only ways to kind of snipe out your opponent's back row in addition to yellow. So nice to have, but I don't think the Unicorn, I just don't think it's necessary to have that there. If there's a card that I just can't get off the field from my opponent's side, I'm going to try to bring out one of the Galaxy Eyes, or I'm going to try to bring out Red Moon and destroy it that way. Or I'm going to use one of these 3 traps here, or I'm going to Book of Moon it face down, and hopefully its defense points are fairly low and I can take advantage of it that way. So just, or War with Imduk. I don't need to name every single way, but I think there are sufficient ways to deal with powerful monsters. And with the meta the way it is, it's very rare that people are relying purely on attack points, other than like a Goki deck. There are effects still there as well, but again, attack points are not the most important thing. It's usually the monster effects that are coming after you and giving you the hard time there. So when you can totally nullify those, really, really powerful thing to have. So in conclusion, this is the deck that I will most likely be using through the month of February. I'm going to probably grind pretty early on, see if I can make it to King of Games, because I know there's also a KC Cup coming up, and that was really the reason that I went through one more box of, what was it, Future Circuit? Victory, I can't recall the box. Something Victory, the box that these are in, to get that purple and get that Morningstar. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions.